So today we're going to talk about equipment, and I'm going to go through my bag, talk about why I make the choices I make in my equipment, and I may even talk a little bit about single length clubs. So there's no better feeling knowing that when you wake up in the morning to go play golf, so that you're going to play well. There's no better feeling of hitting good golf shots down the fairway. So my mission today is to help as many people as possible wake up every day feeling good that they're going to go out there and play great because of the single plane swing. All right, so I'm going to go through the bag, talk about equipment, but before I do, just so you know, this week, October 20th at 7 p.m., I'm doing a plane talk, which is when I discuss all about the single plane swing. We're going to talk about the domino effect, and you get to ask questions, and I'll do a Q&A. So don't forget, there's a registration link in the description here below, so make sure you register for this week's event, October 20th, 7 p.m. All right, so now, let's talk about equipment. Now, here's what I've done. I have brought the stuff that I play with. I know there's two bags, there's tons of equipment here. This is the stuff that is going in and out of my bag. This is the stuff that this is pretty much the stuff I've played with for at least the last 4 or 5 years. I'll talk a little bit about that. Not gonna go crazy into that because I wanna discuss the new equipment that I've just got from Callaway. Remember earlier this year, I went through an entire fitting with my brother. We've been speccing that stuff out. The only problem was I didn't play a lot of golf this year. I didn't really get to use the equipment that much. So when I got back to playing a little bit, I wanted to tweak it. And so Tim and I we went to Callaway and we started working through the ins and outs of the stuff that I really like. And I think I've nailed it down pretty good here. So I want to talk about what's in my bag, why I have it in my bag, some of the new stuff that Callaway has out that I really am impressed with, and I got a new driver, which I'm loving, and I want to talk about that too. So let's start at the bottom of the bag with the wedges. Now, this is the spin machine. This is the Callaway spin machine wedge. Now, we have a Mo Norman version of this. This was actually before they came out with the Mo Norman version, so the Mo's a little bit different than this. But you're going to see that it has, I'm embarrassed that it's not clean because the first thing the Callaway guy said was, make sure the grooves are clean. I'm looking at my grooves, are pretty dirty here. But you can see that it has a raw face, and it is made to spin the golf ball. And they said the most important things of spinning the golf ball are having a clean face, clean grooves, and obviously they've taken the finish off the face so you're getting more spin. This has a nice grind on the bottom, which is we call the C grind. And you can see the old wedge I was hitting, because I want to talk a little bit about what I was hitting before. This was the TaylorMade version of a very similar club. It had a little different grind. You see the difference in the grind. This one, and you can actually see the wear pattern on that club is different than this club. So this one has the grind I like. So I'm taking the TaylorMade out, putting the Callaway in, and I want to hit a couple shots with this. Spinning the golf ball. By the way, this may be somewhat of a long video, so hang in there with me because we're going to go through some of the equipment stuff, and I want to get into a little bit of detail about it. One of the things about spinning the golf ball, and I think it's pretty interesting, is distance that you hit wedges and the flight of it. And a lot of people, what you don't want is the ball popping up. You want the ball to have somewhat of a piercing trajectory to it when you're hitting a wedge. Now, that's what we call you guys see it as maybe how a tour player hits a nice checkable wedge shot that goes in there and checks. And you get that from a number of factors. Number one, obviously you need a clean face, so I should clean this out. And then number two is you're getting it from the proper angles of approach. And let me just kind of explain what the ball is doing on the face. So you're going to have a portion where the ball climbs the face, and then you're going to have a portion where the ball rolls on the face. So you're going to have it where it climbs and where it rolls. And when the ball is rolling on the face, that means it's spinning. So you're going to have a slide and a roll. And the key is to minimize the slide and maximize the roll, because that means the ball is spinning. That's why obviously you want clean grooves, and you want a club that has the right face on it. You don't want stuff on the face. You don't want it to be too smooth. And then when I hit this shot, obviously I want to hit it with the proper angle of approach. Now, you don't want to put it back and hit down on it. A lot of people think, oh, hit down on the thing to spin it. No, you don't want to do that. You want to basically have a nice angle of approach, use the loft of the club, and have a nice angle. And you can see that it comes off in somewhat of a piercing trajectory. I just hit the cart path that's right in front of the path there. So let me hit one a little more to the left so you can kind of see how this ball is flying. So once again, a nice angle of approach down, not hitting down too much, and you get a nice piercing shot. So anyway, I chose this wedge because of the face. I chose this wedge because of the grind, the C grind, and this is going in the bag. So this is one of my favorite clubs of my new fitting. Going to the gap wedge here, the jaws, this is a 52 degrees, and I've actually bent this to 53 degrees, so it gaps me out. So in other words, you want to make sure your gapping is correct in your club. So I have this adjusted at 1 degree. Obviously I didn't wash it since last time I played. I need to probably clean my clubs. But again, a nice grind on the club. This is my gap wedge. I'm hitting the 52 degree. I don't want to hit too many shots with that because I want to move into my irons. Okay, let's go before and after here. I want to show you what I was hitting before and the after. So notice this is the Rogue Pro. Love this club. I've always loved these clubs. Very little offset for me. I don't like offset, mostly because offset creates that hook in the face and it's very hard for me and it flights the ball too high. So I like to have as little offset as I can. So that's why I have this. And then the new clubs, the X Forge CB was the one I chose. That's what I've moved to. It's de-lofted just a little bit. And I got, notice how I put weight, lead weight on the Rogue Pro. They have an adjustable weight here, so I've weighted these out so I don't have to put the weight on the back. So they're relatively heavy. Got a 110 gram stiff Rogue Pro, or steel fiber shaft in this X Forged. So let's hit this a couple times. And what's funny is the last clubs I was hitting were the Apexes. And I know it's gonna sound kind of weird. I was hitting them a little too far, and I know it sounds weird, but to add 2 or 3 yards or 4 yards to it, it's really about flight to me. So I got to be careful not to, I mean, I want to hit it far. I want to hit it farther, but it changes the gapping a little bit. So I want to kind of stick with, you know, 155 to 160 yard 8-iron is where I like to be. I don't want to hit it much further than that. So that's what this club does here. Here's a little 8-iron. And one of the things I like about these is they have some weight to them. So I tend to I favor a little bit of heavier golf club. I don't want to go too light. So here's again one more shot with the 8-iron. Hit that a little on the toe. Let me hit one more. And shafting. Having a 110 gram shaft for me was important because I don't want to get too light in the shaft. I played around with too light as well. Okay, pretty good there. All right, now, let's talk, as I'm getting into the irons here, let's talk about single length irons. And what I wanted to do was kind of explain, I'm gonna grab a wedge. I'm going to grab a 6-iron. And I'm gonna grab my longest iron, which is a 3-iron. I want to explain something to you. I think maybe the most common question I get about single playing club is, should I use single length irons or single length clubs? Let's talk about one thing first. You will never have every club in your bag one length. You could, but you're gonna have a real problem when you get to the hybrids and the woods and the longer clubs that you need to hit. Because those are gonna need to be longer, you need a longer lever to hit the ball longer distances. There's always gonna be, matter of fact, you just saw the PGA go into maximizing the driver length. Why did they do that? Because they want to try to taper back people going to longer clubs to hit it farther. So now that's an indication that longer clubs do hit the ball longer distances because you can produce more speed, especially if you're trained athletes like the guys on the tour. So the real question is, should you have single length irons? Because you're not going to have single length clubs. You're going to have a period, you're going to have a portion of your set, which your irons, which are going to be all one length if you go that direction. I choose not to, and let me explain why. Because let me go back and grab this wedge again. Here's the, and I don't know, I just got to speak from some experience here too as well, but I want the ability to take this wedge, this is a 52 degree wedge, and hit shorter shots with it for control, full shots with it if I want to. But the problem with this is the faster you make a wedge go, the more the ball spins. The more the ball spins, the more it lifts. So as you get into these highly lofted clubs and you add length to them and you add the speed to them, you get more spin and upward motion of the ball. So now you got a problem because the club's so long, it's hard to control the spin on it because of the speed. That's why I don't like really long short irons. Okay, so I want to put that out there before I get into this. Now, here's my wedge. The thing that people benefit from single length clubs is they say, well, I can be in one address position, one spine tilt, which is true. You can be in a similar spine position with a number of irons in your bag. But I measured all this. You know me, I measure everything. And with a wedge, my spine is tilted to a 40-degree angle. With a 6-iron, it's a 45-degree angle. With a 3-iron, it's just a little bit more than let's say around 43. Or I'm sorry, 40. It goes 40, 45, and then 30. It's probably 39. It's not even 39 is my driver. So what I'm getting at is 39 with the driver, 45 with a 6-iron, 40 with a wedge. Okay. So you have this 10-degree basically difference between wedge and driver, and a 6-iron's right in the middle of that. Now, so you're telling me that those few degrees of angle are giving you a benefit. What you're doing is you're finding one and you can stay in one, which is okay. But here's the problem you're going to have, is that you're going to have to be up there higher with the driver and your hybrids and your 3-wood. So you're only going to have 4 or 5 clubs where you can stay in the same angle. And then your wedges are going to be long. And I don't see the benefit of 4 or 5 clubs being in the same angle, because when you're on a single plane, and that's why I want to grab the 6-iron and show you, it doesn't matter the length of club that you're hitting, because the club plane and relationship to the body is exactly the same no matter what plane that I've tilted my spine on. So if I was hitting a golf ball that was level with the ground, that club goes through the same plane of my spine, as does that, as does that, as does that, as does that. So this spine plane relationship to the spine is exactly the same with a driver all the way to a wedge. So when I hit the 6-iron, this still is the same setup as my driver. It's just more up, more tilted. What you're not getting is you're not adjusting the spine throughout the swing. It's changing its angle relative to the club length that you're hitting. I don't see the benefit in having the irons be one and then the wedge, the other clubs being another. Why not just vary the length, and then it makes it easier? So I guess the point I'm getting at, not to drag this thing out even further, is I don't see the benefit of single length clubs as much as most people are trying to tell you what they are. So here's a 6-iron. It's the same setup relationship with the club as that wedge was, and that 8-iron was, and here's a 6-iron. All right, so I'm just changing this. Now, I could do the same thing with a 3-iron, but let's just go in. I want to talk about equipment here a little bit more. I'm not a huge hybrid guy, right? You see that 3-iron, I carry a 3-iron. So I carry a 3-iron because I like the club head face to be progressed behind the entry of the shaft. And anytime you get a hybrid, it pushes that face angle in front of the shaft, and you hit the ball higher and spin it more, which helps you get it off the ground, which is good sometimes. I never love that though. However, I'm going to pull my 3-wood out and pull this new hybrid out. I have to tell you that this is probably, of the latest stuff that Callaway has, is the new SuperHybrid. This is the 2 SuperHybrid. My biggest issue with equipment is that when you start getting into fitting, one of the things you have to pay attention to is set makeup, because you're trying to gap out your distances. So let's say you hit a driver 270, 280 like I do, and then you got a 3-wood that hits it 240 to 245, and then I have this 3-iron that hits it 210, right? 210, 245. Now I got this gap in between, so I got to find a club that fits in this gap. That's maybe the 215, 220 club. So I'm gapping out my distances, right? So a lot of times what happened was I would try to gap it out with a hybrid, and I wouldn't like the hybrid, and so I had this problem, this big gap in there that I'm always trying to figure out. Well, this SuperHybrid, the 16-degree, this club, and this is, look, it's an expensive golf club. This is one of their premier golf clubs. However, it performs so well because it has a great flight for me. It has the driver technology in it, and it's probably the first hybrid I've ever hit that's going to go in my bag. I really like this. I got the 2 and the 3. I'm playing around with the distances on the 2 right now because these are super long. I was hitting this 2 hybrid almost as far as my 3-wood. So let me hit one for you here. So this is the 2 hybrid. SuperHybrid. And man, that is just unreal. And look, it's windy today. Oh man, that is, and one of the things it doesn't do is doesn't shoot up in the air. It's got a really great penetrating ball flight. It's strong. I mean, it's strong. This is going into the wind. It's probably only going about 200, maybe 210, 205, because it's blowing about 25 out here today. But man, this thing, I bet you on the course, I'll hit this 225 yards probably. So this is a really, really beautiful golf club. I'm really liking this thing. And it's just coming out like this. It's coming out in that nice window. Anyway, SuperHybrid, love this golf club. And I got the 2 and the 3 version of this, which one of those 2 is going to end up in this bag. Okay, this was quite a fitting process to get a 3-wood in my hands. This is the Epic 3 Plus with a Ventus 7X shaft. X shaft was keeping me to spin. I'm trying to spin the ball as low as possible. This is a driving club. Now, I've talked about this before, where do I want a 3-wood that hits it off the tee or hits it off the fairway? And that middle ground is always hard for me. So think about this for a second. I'm going to put in that SuperHybrid, which is going to give me a nice 225-yard shot into a green. Now I got a club I can hit off the tee 250 yards, and that's the 3-wood. So once again, I'm playing with that gap that I talked about. So this club, I can hit it off the ground a few times for you, but I wanted to build a club with the 3-wood that was both good off the ground and good off the tee, which was always a challenge for me because I overspin the ball off the tee sometimes with a 3-wood. So here is a 13.5 degree, it's a 13 plus with a 7X shaft, and let's see how this trajectory goes here into this wind. That's killed, and I don't know, man, that's just hit so good. And look, that's a good trajectory. That would be okay onto a green, not bad. That was just right of that red flag down there. Oh, I probably, if that would have been no wind, to maybe 240 on that. Let's do one more. Move the ball position a little more forward here in my ball position trainer, I like to be in the O for the zone for the 3-wood. That's where I've kind of been practicing with this particular club. Yeah, same spot basically. Yeah, same shot. Okay, so that's the 3-wood. I'm really liking that too. And that's gonna be great off the tee because it's not gonna overspin it for me. Now, the driver. And by the way, there's another 3-wood in my bag, which is the Epic 3-wood, but it's a 15 degree. So that's the one that I kind of spin it more with. So I've gone between the 2 3-woods, but I'm gonna stick with that 13.5 right now. Okay, let's talk driver now. Okay, now I have a 5S in this club. One of the issues we were dealing with, I have an X in my 3-wood. I may go with the X shaft in this, not sure. You can see over here, I have a spare shaft in this bag somewhere. Right here's a spare shaft. This is actually the same shaft that's in my 3-wood for the driver. So that's an X shaft. I'm messing with that right now. I'm still in a work in progress on that. So I have the S in here, but 8.5 degree, down 1 degree, 7.5 degree neutral face, and then it's the low spin version of this club. So obviously the goal is to elevate this golf ball with as little spin as possible. And so I've only been on the golf course with this club one time, and as you know, and talk to my brother about this, this is the club where you got to find the right driver in your bag, because if you hate your driver, golf's hard. I've been sticking with a low spin TaylorMade driver for a while because it was the one that was doing best for me. This has a 92% chance of getting in the bag because I played with it, I loved it, it was outperforming that other driver for me. It's a really good test in this wind. Matter of fact, a lot of people don't practice when it's windy. This is actually a really good day to practice, especially if you want to see how the ball is spinning on you. So let's just hit a couple good ones here and see how this driver's doing. It's on the same line as that 3-wood. And the key really for me is hitting into this wind and not overspinning it, because spin is actually your enemy with a driver. Overspinning it, seeing it go up, dropping short, you hit a good shot, it doesn't go very far because you're just too much spin. So I wanted a very low spin driver with a shaft that would spin it, wouldn't spin it, and then still elevate the ball. So 7.5 degrees, low spin. And so you'll be able to see that in Shot Tracer, but that ball it's in this window, right at the red flag. Ooh, that's hit good. And what I like about it is when I mishit it, it doesn't spin too crazy. A lot of times I'll get drivers, and if I mishit them, they overspin too much. So let's do it again here. This thing's good. Very low spin. Same line, same spot. Fraction higher than the one before. I hit it a little bit higher in the face, just a tiny bit. Let's do another one. All right, this one, wind's picking up, you can hear it. Super windy. I'm gonna try to hit this a little higher just to see what the wind does to it. Dude, that's great. I mean, I hit that higher just to see, and the wind it pushed it to the right, but it's still, that might have gone further than the other one. So, hey, look, let's just kind of summarize today a little bit. Number one, and I didn't mention this, but let's mention it now. You got to find stuff that you'd like to look at. I don't like offset clubs too much. I don't like the look of it. Earlier this year, I was looking at the apex, which I was hitting. I did not like the back end of the apex. I didn't like looking at it. Beautiful golf club, hit them really good, but I was struggling with looking at the golf club. It was more about an optical thing for me. You got to like the way they look. And then set makeup. You got to have the set makeup correct. You got to gap it out correctly based on your swing speed. That's why fitting's such an important thing for you. Next thing is, you got to find the stuff that performs well for you based on your swing speed, your arm length, and all this other stuff. You got to have a good fitting. And by the way, I'll put the fitting link. We have a single plane fit place you can go, and we'll give you a single plane fitting. I'll put it here in the description on this channel so you can get single plane fit. And the final thing is about single length clubs. Look, I'm not anti single plane clubs. I just don't see the major benefit in them. I see more of a benefit with guys with super high swing speeds because they can have more of the clubs in their bag, but the average guy with average swing speeds needs to have longer clubs, basically in the hybrids and longer clubs and the driver, and he needs some control on the wedges. So you end up with so few single length clubs that I just don't see the huge benefit in that. And that's my story about single length clubs. That's my story about my equipment. If you're enjoying this content, give me a thumbs up, click that bell icon, share this stuff with your friends, and go get single plane fit. Click the link below, and I'll see you at the webinar on the 20th.